4. Capstone rubrics. Part A. Backbone rubric. S. No. Parameter. S. No parameter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Regularity. Punctuality. Leadership. Teamwork. Empathy. Supportive. Problem solving. Reliability. Grooming 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Integrity. Politeness. Participation and energy. Learning attitude. Communication skills, grammar. Pronunciation and prosody. Time management * score of total instance of first absence. Score of 0 on the day of absence, following which the student will only be eligible for a score of 1 for the rest of the module. Second absence will result in the all following days regularity score to remain 0. 1 to 6. Part B. Research rubric. Parameter 0.1 point. Clarity in objectives. The team didn't state the objectives of their presentation. Resources. The team used limited resources and they were not documented, poorly documented. Depth of research. The team employed one source and information collected was superficial, hence not very reliable. Packaging in conclusion. The information was unclear and haphazard. The visual cues were not pleasant to the eyes. The presentation was lackluster. Self-reliance and teamwork. The team repeatedly sought assistance from the facilitator instead of using the brain power of the team. The presentation was clearly riding on the contributions of a minority of the team. The team was able to understand the objective of their presentation, but couldn't state it clearly. The team tried to use multiple resources but not effectively. 2 points. The team was able to recognize and state the objectives of their presentation. The team employed all relevant resources and used them effectively. They documented the resources clearly in their reports. The team used a few resources but the information was not always cross-referenced. The information was clearly arranged and organized, but visual cues could have been better. Energy was inconsistently displayed. The team sought assistance from the facilitator on a few occasions. Most of the team members contributed towards the presentation. The team employed best practices to collect data effectively. The information was sufficiently checked and validated. The information was clearly arranged and organized. The charts, tables, reports were clear and well proofread. The presentation was energetic. The team was extremely self-reliant and didn't seek assistance from the facilitator at all. The entire team contributed effectively towards research and presentation. 1 to 7. Part C. Group discussion rubric. Parameter 0 point. Prosody. The students used a rate of speech that hampered clarity. The tone and pitch were not pleasant. Intonation and stress were mundane and monotonous. Cohesion. Evidence. Rebuttal and connections. Ideas were scattered and did not connect to the topic very well. Arguments were not supported by examples. Unable to connect the discussion points raised by others to rebut, connect his, her own points. Grammar. Pronunciation and vocabulary. Made a lot of errors in grammar and pronunciation. Was unable to realize and correct these mistakes. Vocabulary was not appropriate for advanced level. 1 point. Rate of speech, tone and pitch, intonation and stress pattern were all inconsistently used. 2 points. The rate of speech was appropriate. The tone and pitch were pleasant. Intonation and stress were properly used. Ideas were inconsistently arranged and presented but addressed the topic. Arguments were inconsistently backed by examples. Not all examples were effectively used. Somewhat able to connect the discussion points raised by others to rebut, connect his, her own points. Made some errors in grammar and pronunciation. Was able to realize and correct some mistakes. Vocabulary was appropriate for advanced level. Ideas were clear, well connected, precise and relevant to the topic. Arguments were sufficiently backed by examples and they were relevant to the point being made. Able to competently connect the discussion points raised by others to rebut, connect his, her own points. Made negligible errors in grammar and pronunciation and was able to correct most of them. Vocabulary was appropriate for advanced level. Part D. Writing rubric. Parameter 0 points 1 point. The text was dotted with grammatical errors that made the text difficult to read. Vocabulary was poor. Content. The solution was not backed by reasoning. The student repeated information and the written piece went around in circles. Structure. The write-up was poorly structured in terms of introduction, body and conclusion. Format. The write-up was not poorly proofread. Formatting was haphazard. Word limit was not followed. Paragraphs were not used. The text had a few grammatical errors, but they didn't make it very difficult to read. Vocabulary was average. The solution was insufficiently backed by reasoning. A few repetitions were made. The write-up had an introduction, body and conclusion, but they didn't seamlessly fit into one another. The write-up was inconsistently proofread. Word limit was followed. Paragraphs were used but not effectively. 2 points. The text had negligible grammatical errors. Appropriate vocabulary was used. The solution was sufficiently backed by reasoning. No repetition was made. The write-up was well structured. It had an introduction, body, and conclusion. It flowed seamlessly. The write-up was well proofread. Word limit was followed. Paragraphs were effectively used. 128. Part A. Report Writing Rubric. Parameter 0 point. The text was dotted with grammatical errors that made the text difficult to read. Vocabulary was poor. Content. The report presented a shallow understanding of the solutions. The selected solution was not backed by evidence. Text has repetition. Alternate solution was not addressed. Structure. The student didn't display an understanding of available structures in her report was unorganized. The student didn't follow the prescribed structure, which includes a tabular form, executive summary, introduction, body, analysis and bibliography. Format. The write-up was poorly proofread. Formatting was haphazard. Word limit was not followed. Paragraphs were not used. 1 point. The text had a few grammatical errors, but they didn't make it very difficult to read. Vocabulary was average. The report presented a somewhat satisfactory understanding of solutions. The selected solution was backed by some evidence. Alternate solutions were either not addressed or poorly addressed. The student displayed an understanding of available structures but could have been better organized. The student followed some prescribed structures of report writing. 2 points. The text had negligible grammatical errors. Appropriate vocabulary was used. The report presented a satisfactory understanding of the solutions. The selected solution was backed by sufficient evidence. Alternative solutions were treated with the same seriousness. The student displayed an understanding of available structures through his report. Report was well organized. The student followed all prescribed structures of report writing. The write-up was inconsistently proofread. Word limit was followed. Paragraphs were used but not effectively. The write-up was well proofread. Word limit was followed. Paragraphs were effectively used. Part F. Presentation Rubric. Parameter 0.1 point. Presentation. Gestures and expressions. Voice. Modulation. Sentence structure is somewhat clear with a proper intro, body conclusion. Body language, facial expressions and gestures lack variety and spontaneity. Tone was monotonous. Used vocalized pauses, etc. that were distracting. Sentence structure is fairly clear with a proper intro, body, conclusion. Body language, gestures, and facial expressions complement message. Tone was not monotonous, but vocal projection still needs to be developed. Used vocalized pauses, but they were not distracting. 2 points. Sentence structure is very clear with a proper intro, body, conclusion, pronunciation. Body language, gestures, and facial expressions adds greatly to the message. Used appropriate variations in tone and volume. Used negligible vocalized pauses that did not distract. 129. Appendix 5. Graduation Certificates. Certificate Type. Criteria. Certificate of Distinction *. Certificate of Honors. Minimum 80% lesson percentage and exceptional performance in capstone, top 2 students. minimum 80% lesson percentage and excellent performance in capstone, 3 students. Certificate of graduation, completion certificate, minimum 60% lesson percentage. Certificate of attendance. As many classes a student can attend, only top 2 students will be awarded the certificate of distinction. In case of a tie, the facilitator will be the final adjudicator. Only 3 students will be awarded the certificate of honors. In case of a tie, the facilitator will be the final adjudicator. 130